On WION, which is the global network channel from India. Again, thank you for your love and affection. See you soon at Subhash Chandra Show.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at yoursarthi@such.org.in.
Hello and welcome to Race to Power. My name is Mohammed Saleh and here's what we've got lined up for you on the show in the next 30 minutes. Now, Joe Biden has officially passed on the baton to Kamala Harris in his White House address. While the Vice President enjoys a rally of support from the Democrat leaders, one big name, that of the former President Barack Obama, is yet to publicly endorse Kamala Harris for the presidency. And election fever is picking up steam in Venezuela. And just about 2 days from now, the Venezuelans will be heading to the ballot boxes to see if the incumbent Nicolas Maduro is to be given another term in power. Or is there a possibility that Venezuela could see an opposition alliance spring up? But of course, listen to what the voters have to say. But this is going to be an extremely important election for Venezuela. Now, days after stepping aside from the presidential race, Joe Biden has in fact broken his silence on the surprise decision that presses the reset button on the upcoming elections. And our next report tells you as to what's in fact been going on behind the corridors of power in Washington, D.C.
My fellow Americans.
President Joe Biden said Wednesday that abandoning his re-election campaign was the best way to unite the country. Biden had announced he would exit the race days ago, but this Oval Office address was the first time he's publicly discussed his decision.
I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation. Whether we keep our republic is now in your hands. My fellow Americans, it's been the privilege of my life to serve this nation for over 50 years.
What Biden did not mention was weeks of pressure from within his own party to step aside, which he had resisted until Sunday. That push came after a disastrous performance debating former President Donald Trump. He spent days soul-searching and agonizing over internal poll data that showed he could lose to his Republican opponent in November. Meanwhile, in the days since Biden's decision, Harris has revitalized the Democratic election campaign. Biden called her a strong leader.
She's experienced, she's tough, she's capable. She's been an incredible partner to me and a leader for our country. Now the choice is up to you, the American people.
Hours before Biden spoke, Trump tried to push back against the Harris momentum at a rally in North Carolina, his first since the Biden exit.
She is a radical left lunatic who will destroy our country. If she ever gets the chance to get into office, we're not going to let that happen.
Trump routinely uses insults to attack his opponents and said he planned to ignore advice to take a softer line. He called her lying Kamala in his combative speech and said she should be held responsible for the Biden administration's policies on immigration and more. Biden put Harris in charge of working with countries in Central America to help stem the tide of migration, but she was not given responsibility for border security, nor was she named Border Czar, as Trump referred to her at the rally. Also on Wednesday, the Democratic National Committee's Rules Committee agreed on a plan to formally nominate Harris as soon as August 1st. That would be weeks before the party's convention in Chicago, with Harris picking a running mate by August 7th.
So with the new Democrat US presidential candidate in the fray, a fresh round of traditional debates are expected to happen pretty soon. In the latest, Fox News has now proposed to moderate a debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris on the 17th of September. Now, according to reports, the news channel has approached the rival camps on Wednesday, inviting both candidates to participate in the debate. Now, Pennsylvania has been proposed as the tentative venue. The proposed debate is in fact scheduled a week after the second round that was scheduled for the 10th of September, when Biden was still in the race. And it remains to be seen if this particular debate, hosted by ABC News, will still happen now that Biden has dropped out of the race. The developments have come just a day after Donald Trump said that he is willing to debate Kamala Harris more than once, irrespective of which media outlet conducts it. Now, Kamala Harris is yet to respond to Donald Trump's comments. Now, the former American president had previously called for a vice presidential debate between Kamala Harris and his then unknown running mate. Now, J.D. Vance was eventually announced as the Republican vice presidential candidate on the 15th of July at the party's national convention. Now, ever since Joe Biden endorsed Kamala Harris for the job of the president, Democrat lawmakers have in fact rallied behind the vice president to be the nominee for the next presidency. But the former president, Barack Obama, has not yet endorsed Kamala Harris's presidential bid. So the question, of course, is this: is it a snub, or is there some kind of a strategic silence which Barack Obama is exercising? Now, news reports have widely commented upon the possible reasons, with plenty of speculation doing the rounds, mostly centering on details that can't be doing any good for Kamala Harris's campaign bid. Most reports have quoted unnamed Biden family insiders saying that Barack Obama is actually very skeptical about Kamala Harris's ability to beat Donald Trump in the election. A day after President Joe Biden endorsed her for the presidential bid, top Democrats, including the likes of Nancy Pelosi and Gavin Newsom, quickly issued public support for Kamala Harris. But Obama chose to stay quiet. Now, the New York Post reported that Barack Obama was very upset about Kamala Harris's candidacy, even claiming that he knows that she cannot win against Donald Trump. The report even claims that Barack Obama is pretty sure that she simply cannot debate Donald Trump. But Republicans are interpreting Barack Obama's silence as a clear snub for Kamala Harris. They're also questioning her wildcard entry into the U.S. elections with voting due in November. At an election rally, Trump's running mate J.D. Vance even called the idea of selecting instead of electing the Democrats' party's nominee as a clear threat to American democracy. Other reports have also quoted the Democrat insiders saying that Barack Obama has in fact privately fully supported Kamala Harris's candidacy and that he's been in regular contact with her throughout this week, believing her campaign has been off to a pretty great start. The aides of Kamala Harris and Barack Obama have also allegedly discussed arranging for the two of them to appear together on the campaign trail. But regardless of the reasons for Barack Obama's silence, the fact still remains that it simply does not seem to be helping Kamala Harris's cause. Having Barack Obama on her side helps her campaign in a number of different areas, where the former president's influence is still pretty effective. But the fact of the matter is, Barack Obama so far has not publicly endorsed Kamala Harris. And to give us more in terms of what's in fact happening within the Democrat camp and why Barack Obama not endorsing, at least who's not endorsed Kamala Harris yet publicly, is badly affecting the Democrat campaign. To discuss this, we're being joined by Ms. Theron Bond, who's joining us from Washington, D.C., and she is a Democrat strategist. Now, Ms. Bond, this is a crucial bit of a detail which I'm pretty sure even the Democrat voters are thinking about. Why has Barack Obama not publicly endorsed Kamala Harris yet?
I think there's so much speculation. I think as a former elected leader of the highest office in the United States, he wants to be very careful about who he supports. Of course, he wants to make sure he backs a winner. And I think he's just carefully weighing his options. I think the bigger question is, have they actually talked? A big thing in the Democratic Party is being asked. And do we know if Vice President Kamala Harris has formally asked former President Barack Obama herself directly for support. Very small things like that matter in the grand scheme of things. We don't know that
Right.
conversation has happened. I think he wants to be sure. I think he broke barriers when he became the first Black president of the United States. She's posed to become the first Black woman president if she is indeed the nominee finally and elected. And I think he wants to be sure. I think they both are going to be very careful about what message that sends to the American people, and he's treading lightly. But if he is going to support her, we will see him do so very loudly and boldly.
You know, I think it's very interesting, the choice of words that you've used, where you say that Barack Obama wants to back the winning candidate, and therefore he stayed silent. Does it mean that Barack Obama is pretty convinced, as the New York Post article says, that Barack Obama thinks that Kamala Harris simply has no chance against Donald Trump, leave alone beating her in the presidential elections in November? Barack Obama, according to the article, it says that he does not think Kamala Harris can even debate Donald Trump.
I think it's a hard brick to say that she has no chance. I think, as we've seen with some showing of support, she has at least some chance, and she's raised a significant amount of money that can't be ignored. I think he's very clear on what barriers he had to break and the hills he had to climb during his candidacy and for his reelection as president, because we know he served 2 terms. And I think he's very aware of those things and similar things that Vice President Kamala Harris will have to endure, and even more as the country has become more polarized. I think he wants to be 100% sure, and I think he wants to be fair and say that he's exhausted all options before he opens his mouth to formally support her.
You know, it's interesting. You are a Democrat strategist. By not endorsing Kamala Harris, do you think he's actually, you know, in some ways damaging Kamala Harris's campaign? And is there a possibility, because this is also something that needs to be talked about, if Barack Obama does not want to back Kamala Harris, is there a possibility that Kamala Harris may not be the Democrat nominee?
I think when we saw how long it took for former President Donald Trump and all of his things and the pressure to put President Joe Biden for him to step aside, I think that he's just being very, very careful. I think there is something to say about the weight that his endorsement will hold, but how much weight to be determined. He's a former president, right? He's not currently elected to anything else, but he is a very well-respected advisor in the Democratic space. People do look for his endorsement, and there will be people that say, yes, I'll support Vice President Kamala Harris because former President Barack Obama does, and there will be people who say, oh, no, if he doesn't, I won't either.
Right.
So it could work either way. She's going to have to do the work herself to overcome a lot of things, and she could win over some of those voters, whether or not she has his endorsement, if she's willing to do the work.
Very quickly, because we're short of time. Now, at this point of time, Nancy Pelosi has backed Kamala Harris, so has Gavin Newsom. These are Democrat heavyweights. But Barack Obama has not. So the Republican camp is saying that the Democrats are essentially a divided house. Is that the perception that is now going out to the American voters?
Definitely a divided house, but it has zero to do with former President Barack Obama alone, and it has a lot to do with Vice President Kamala Harris's record and what the similar and different supporters are between President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Ms. Therenborn, for joining us from Washington, D.C. and getting us all those insights there.
Thank you.
Let's now shift our attention to what is happening in the United Kingdom, where just weeks after Keir Starmer assumed office after Labour swept the election mandate, the leader has faced his first Prime Minister's questions sessions at the House of Commons. Now, Keir Starmer was seen fielding some pretty interesting questions from his predecessor, Rishi Sunak, and also the leader of the Scottish National Party. While Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak appeared to put on a united front on the topic of Ukraine, the Prime Minister and the SNP leader were at odds over the two-child policy. Listen to what transpired at the Westminster.
Can I ask that he continues to be responsive to Ukraine's new requests so that they don't just stand still, but can decisively win out against Russian aggression?
Can I thank the Leader of the Opposition for not only raising the question of Ukraine, but doing it in a way which can maintain the unity across this House, which has been so important to the Ukrainian people. And I can assure him that we are, of course, talking to Ukraine about how they deal with the Russian aggression that they have been facing for many, many months. And I will continue to try to do that in the way that he did, which is to reach out across the House to share such information as we can to maintain the unity that is so important.
And just 5 days before the general election in Scotland, on the front page of the Daily Record, Gordon Brown instructed voters to vote Labour to end child poverty. Yet last night, Labour MPs from Scotland were instructed to retain the two-child cap, which forces children into poverty. So, Prime Minister, what changed?
Mr. Speaker, already we've set up a task force to put that vigour in place. 3 breakfast clubs in every primary school, abolishing no-fault eviction, decent home standard, Awab's law, and a plan to make work pay. But I would just say this. Before he lectures everyone else, he should explain why, since the SNP came to power, there are 30,000 more children in poverty in Scotland.
All right, so that was Keir Starmer there, the Prime Minister, taking questions and answering questions from the leaders of the opposition. Now, a day after the Conservative Party opened nominations to find their next leader, another prominent name has thrown his hat in the ring. The former Security Minister Tom Tugendhat is the latest Conservative to announce his bid to become the next party leader. The leader has accused his party of quote-unquote failing to deliver on its promises and has said that he'll leave the European Convention on Human Rights to succeed Rishi Sunak. Interestingly, Tugendhat was a candidate in 2022 as well, but had lost the job to Rishi Sunak. The former Security Minister said that Labour leader Keir Starmer had provided a political party could in fact turn around its fortunes in 5 years, and that he himself could become the Prime Minister at the next election if he's elected as the leader of the Tory party. So far, 3 Tory MPs have now publicly announced their nomination to replace Rishi Sunak. 2 other leaders who announced their candidacy include the former Home Office Minister Robert Jenrick and the former Home Secretary James Cleverly. The nominations, which opened on Wednesday, will close on the 29th of July, and the party's final leader will be selected from the top 2 nominations on the 2nd of November. Let's now get you some updates from Venezuela, where in just 2 days from now, the Venezuelans will of course be voting to elect their next leader. In the backdrop of a crippling economy, the opposition coalition is pulling out all stops to try and dethrone the incumbent Nicolas Maduro, who's seeking a 3rd straight term in office. But before voting takes place on Sunday, there is trouble already. On Wednesday, Argentina's ex-president Alberto Fernandez said that he has been disinvited from observing the elections after the leader issued a public statement urging Maduro to accept the mandate, even if he loses the polls. Now, the leader's statement comes on the heels of Brazil's president reacting to Maduro, warning of a quote-unquote bloodbath if he loses the election. Now, with the state set for the Venezuelans to decide their country's political fate, listen in to what some of the voters have had to say on the polls.
Let me tell you upfront, I'm leaning towards Nicolas Maduro for the elections because I believe he is the man who has brought peace to this country. I think he has brought peace to this country.
Whoever wins, we want things to get better because it's difficult here and we are, in all honesty, practically starving because our salary is not enough. But we're going to give everybody, every candidate, a chance. We will see who will win, but we also want change. Let's see what happens, because if Maduro wins, may he do well, and if Maria Corina wins, may she do well.
The only thing I want for this country is to change, for it to be like it used to be, for things to be affordable, for there to be no shortages, for there to be better education in school, better schools like we used to get. We would get notebooks, pencils and transportation.
Mrs. Maria Corina has already won. She has already won. Maduro will win, but with fraud. But we will trust in God, because He is the one who will get him out of the government.
The Mexican leader Andrés Manuel López Obrador has called President Donald Trump's plan to ban Mexican-made cars a bluff that simply isn't serious if Trump were to be re-elected again. Now, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, known as AMLO, said that Trump's plan will not be implemented since this would lead to a substantial increase in car pricing in the United States. AMLO further said that he isn't worried about remarks made by Trump during his campaigning, given that Trump had previously supported the North American free trade deal while he was in office. His comments were in reaction to a question concerning Tesla's intention to postpone investing in its proposed northern Mexico factory until after the US elections. As an example of the political risk, the corporation pointed to Trump's plan to increase tariffs on items manufactured in Mexico. Obrador stated that Trump's plan to close the US-Mexico border would lead to complete anarchy. He said that this would impact the daily transit of 300,000 vehicles and 1 million people, and it will restrict trade in products that are vital for the American economy. Now, Obrador further said that a car that is imported from Mexico represents a savings to an American buyer of anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 American dollars. Referring to Trump's border plans, he said to take such a step would be tantamount to calling for a rebellion on both sides of the border because of the damage it would cause to the people, the industry and commerce. In response to Tesla CEO Elon Musk's remarks during Tuesday's earnings call, Mexican real estate investment trust shares and auto firm stocks fell. The Mexican investment community is, of course, preparing for more market turbulence. Rodolfo Ramos, a strategist at Bradesco BPI, has said that the comments from Trump and Musk are certainly chilling for the industrial sector. Let's also now take a quick look as to what else is making headlines in the world of politics. The German government said that it plans to hold its next general elections for its lower house of the parliament on the 28th of September next year. The statement made on Wednesday falls in line with the country's constitutional 4-year interval for polls. And according to reports, cabinet members have agreed to recommend the date to the president, who holds the power to finalize it. In India, the actor turned parliamentarian Kangana Ranaut's election has been challenged. A high court issued a notice to the Bollywood actor following a petition that was filed by the former Forest Department official like Ram Negi. Negi, a resident of Kinnaur, claimed that his nomination papers to contest from Mandi Lok Sabha constituency were allegedly wrongly rejected. The Ranaut, who won from the Mandi constituency by defeating the Congress candidate Vikramaditya Singh, has been asked to file a reply by the 21st of August. After Argentina's ex-president was disinvited from observing elections in Venezuela, Brazil has also cancelled its electoral mission to the poll-bound nation. Following Maduro's comments on Brazil's electoral system, the country's top electoral court said that it will not send experts to observe Venezuela's presidential election as was initially planned. Now, ahead of the general elections in Ghana, ECOWAS has deployed a fact-finding mission to the country in order to assess election preparedness. The mission, which began on the 21st of July, will conclude on Saturday, and Ghana goes to polls on the 7th of December this year. The delegation is conducting working sessions with several stakeholders involved in the electoral process, including the government, the Electoral Commission of Ghana, the judiciary, all political parties, civil society organizations and security agencies as well. The ECOWAS traditionally sends fact-finding missions to determine the support that the regional bloc needs to extend to poll-bound nations. The ECOWAS Commission had provided similar support to Ghana during the 2020 elections as well. Well, that's all the time we have in this edition of Race to Power. Thanks for watching.